Hello, hyperspace. My name is Davontos, and it's time to get hyped because this is possibly the best tips and tricks video of Overwatch I can possibly give, and I'm going to tell you the best heroes to take in Overwatch, and I can guarantee and confirm that there are a total of 23 really useful heroes you can take in Overwatch. So let's categorize them into detail from defense, attack, support, and tank, and see how they come into play, and which is the best of the best for you to take when you're competing with everybody else online. So let's start off with the defensive heroes. These defensive heroes consist of Bastion, Hanzo, Junkrat, Mei, Torbjorn, and Widowmaker. Defensive heroes, well, play defensively. That means you use them to protect your team, protect an objective, protect the payload. For whatever means, they're played defensively. Occasionally, they're okay to use on attack, but there are better heroes, the attack heroes, to be using for attacking purposes, but it's okay to throw in a defensive hero here and there. We'll get into that later. But defensive heroes, well, they're a pain to kill, mostly because they have a lot of health, they tend to escape, or they just take you out before you can take them out. Now, for an example for defensive heroes is Bastion. Bastion is one of the best defensive heroes out there because he has his sentry configuration. But he's not the best at attack because he's a big target and his machine gun just isn't really the best. It's effective, but considering 76 is in there, 76 is just a way better machine gun wielding attack hero than Bastion can ever be. So when I mean you want to play defense as Bastion, I mean you want to play defense as Bastion. You don't want to attack as Bastion. Bastion isn't support, and Bastion isn't a tank. Sometimes when I play Overwatch, I see people taking Bastion on attack and treating him like 76, instead of just taking 76. You see what I'm getting here? Speaking of 76, that brings us up to the attack heroes. Now these attack heroes consist of Genji, McCree, Pharah, Reaper, 76, Sombra, and Tracer. Now, these heroes are the guys who just run into Battlefield, depending on who you choose. I mean, you can't run into Battlefield with Sombra or Genji. But these are the guys who tend to perform in the front lines. They tend to do most of the damage, get, I guess you can say, most of the kills, depending on how you use them. And they're the guys who just push the team forward. However, each one of these heroes have their different playstyles. If you're taking, let's say, 76, he's the guy who stays in the front lines, and he's the guy who picks off anybody on his sights, hence his ultimate, I've got you in my sights. Now if you're taking Sombra, you can't do that. Her machine pistol is way too weak, she can't perform in the front lines, so even though she will be in the battlefield, she tends to be a flanker like Tracer and Genji. Genji is not meant to be used in the front lines. All of you out there who think you are pro Genjis, you are using him wrong, which is why you die too much. And I don't like when you die too much because we lose, and when we lose, it makes the team sad, and when the team gets sad, everybody starts to cry. So let's go to the support heroes. The support heroes is Ana, Lucio, Mercy, Symmetra, and Zenyatta. These are the guys who keep your team alive. However, the only way for them to keep your team alive is if your team keeps them alive. They are very squishy, very weak, very vulnerable because they don't have a high DPS, or DPS means, you know, how much damage they can put out in the field. They're vulnerable. If they don't have protection, they can't protect you. And a lot of the times I see people taking especially Lucio and Mercy, and they're treating them like 76 for some reason. Obviously that's not going to work. You don't do that. You just take them as a healer and a support, and you play them as a healer or support. If you get desperate and you're cornered, then yeah, take out your gun and start shooting people. But never run into the front lines as Mercy. You don't do that. That's like a death wish right there. You don't do that. If you're compromised, if you're hooked by a Roadhog, and Roadhog's like staring at you dead in the face, and you're a little short Mercy just staring right back at his big fat belly button, just take it. Just stay quiet, close your eyes, inhale, exhale, and take his big load. And respawn. Now with Symmetra, Symmetra's kind of like a mixture of both support and defense, I guess. She kind of has the turrets in there, which serve as a defense, and she gives your team shields, which kind of serve as Torbjorn's armor, which kind of plays into defense. But then she has that teleporter, which helps as a support hero. She's kind of like in an awkward situation, kind of like when you go to those high school proms and like you don't have a prom date, and you see everybody dancing, and you want to dance, but then you don't want anybody to see that you're alone, so you're kind of like in an awkward situation if you should dance and fit in, or if you just should be spotted and find out that you're just alone. And you're in an awkward situation and you don't want people to laugh at you for not having a prom date. That's Symmetra right there. She's in an awkward situation, and just depending on how you use her, it can just determine on what role you want to put her in, but certainly don't use her as attack, and she is definitely not a tank. And speaking of tanks, let's hop right into the tank category. This consists of D.Va, when she's in her mech, Reinhardt, Roadhog, Winston, and Zarya. The tanks want all the attention. They have a truckload of health, they sponge all the damage, some of them can self-heal, and if you're a healer, your main priority should be keeping the tanks alive. So, when you're a tank, 1. Keep all the attention to yourself. You dish out a ton of damage, you protect your team, and you focus on disrupting enemy defenses. When you're a tank, you stay with your team and you sponge all the bullets and you serve as a big distraction, as I said before. You don't charge into the enemy lines. I'm talking to you Reinhardt players who charge into enemy lines, hoping to pick off that one random person, get the kill, and then by the time you turn around, all the enemies are like looking at you and then they just jump you and then you die, and your team has no defense. You don't do that. You stay with your team, you defend them, and you give your guys the win because you're sponging all the damage, and hopefully, if the healer is doing their job, they'd keep you alive as best as possible. You don't stay in the back of the team. I'm talking to you D.Va players who stay in the back next to Bastion and try to treat yourself like a Bastion turret, even though you're not because you're a little girl in a robot suit. You stay with your team. I see a whole bunch of times that these people take D.Vas and Reinhardts and they just treat them like attack soldiers, and you're not. You gotta treat them like tanks. You sponge the damage, you sponge the bullets, and when you need healing, that's when you backtrack and, rely on the healer. That's when the healer does their job, keeps you alive, and you repeat. So about that tank category, D.Va, when she's out of her mech, she is obviously no longer a tank, so that's when you backtrack and you stay near the defenders, picking off people, or at least damaging them, with your little tiny dollar store toy pistol, and you hope to get some kills, fill up your mech, call your mech back, you become a tank again, and then you go back to the front lines. A lot of times I see D.Vas whose mech gets destroyed, and then they just run into the front lines, hoping to get some kills, and they get picked off and they die, and we gotta wait for our tank to respawn. It's a terrible technique. You want to stay alive as much as possible in Overwatch. No matter who you have, your main priority is to stay alive. First stay alive, and then play your role. So let's hop back, because I said in the beginning of the video, you can actually switch out attack and defensive heroes depending on who they are and what you're trying to do. Now, surprisingly, Junkrat can play an effective attacking hero if you're escorting the payload. Most people don't want to get close to his bombs, so if you're helping escort the payload and staying in the front lines, you can push them back, well, with your bouncing, boobly, bubbly, big, exploding bombs. But other people like Torbjorn can't really do that as effectively as Junkrat can. So depending on the situation, you can kind of swap some of the attacking and defensive heroes, but to the most part, you want them to play their role to their full extent. Also, try to get into the habit of using different heroes. Let's use attack, for example. You're always playing attack, you're always using 76, but for some reason, you can't push through their defenses. You can't attack as effectively as 76 can attack. So what do you do if you don't have any options to do a 76? You gotta train on using somebody else, like Sombra. Sombra is not really as effective as attacking as 76 is. She is classified as an attacking hero, but she doesn't play the same attack role that 76 plays. So, if your attacking technique isn't working as 76, you switch out to Sombra and you play the attack flanking technique. It really comes into play, which is why you should never focus on just maining 1, 2, or even 4 heroes. You want to try to get into the habit of controlling everybody, or at least get the feel for everybody. So when the time comes, and you gotta switch out to Tracer, or you gotta switch out to like Hanzo, you know how to use them, and you know how to use them properly. I'm talking to you Hanzo guys who try to play the roles of 76 in the front lines and never get anybody. So, it's time to answer the big question, who is the best hero in Overwatch? And the answer is, it's all 23 of them. Every hero has their strengths, weaknesses, and uses. You can be the best Genji in the world, you can use a Dragon Blade and wipe out anybody on your sights, but the instant you put that blade away and a Winston jumps on you, you are completely defenseless. It could be the same thing for Roadhog. You can be the best Roadhog, you can hook anybody and one-shot them, but the instant you hook that Reaper or D.Va mech, you're screwed. It's the same thing, even with the healers. There's no such thing as the best healer. If you want to take Lucio and escort the payload to keep your team alive, that's fine. But if you were playing in, let's say, Hanamura, and you want to get your team to the point a lot faster while keeping a safe distance, that's when you take Ana. So, no matter who you take, you will always have your weaknesses. There is no such thing as that unstoppable Genji, or that almighty Roadhog who can't be killed. They always have their weaknesses. The thing that separates good Overwatch players from bad Overwatch players is knowing how to play your character, knowing their strengths, and knowing their weaknesses. And that's about it. So if you liked the video, punch that like button with a mighty force. Leave any questions you have from Overwatch Heroes in the comment section below, and I'll reply in the next video or in the comment section below. You can follow me up on Twitter at Davontos Man. And as always, I'll see all of you in the next video. Have a nice day!